Welcome back, everyone, to Sportz Blitz Live. Andy Graham here alongside Paige Patterson. Thank you for joining us this evening.
This is a treat.
Absolutely. You are, why don't we just tell us a little bit about yourself? You just told me a little bit about yourself in the break. Why don't you tell everybody else? First of all, you said you actually went to the University of Florida.
I did. Y'all have mentioned my coach already. I was there 96 through 98 and enjoyed the Spurrier years. First year there, national championship.
Absolutely.
That'll leave an impression on you.
Absolutely, no doubt about that. How did you find your way to Lake Martin?
Well, I kind of grew up here, and I guess in a roundabout way that kind of has something to do with sports too. My grandparents retired here after he was the assistant athletic coach at West Point in the retired Army.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Okay. And you've been here in LXC, and you went to school. You moved from here to Gainesville?
It was a long journey.
Okay, it was a winding road there.
Grew up in Boaz and a Sardis line till death.
Okay. All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about Love Lake Martin. It's a show. It's a real estate company. It's a multifaceted thing.
Yes, it's a movement.
Okay.
Love Lake Martin is sort of my slogan, and I realize that it's catching. Everyone who's been here, kind of most of you feel the same way. You love Lake Martin. So about 5 years ago when we moved here full time to sell real estate and raise our two boys, I didn't really know that much. I just came, from home. We moved here from Birmingham, and I just knew sort of how to get from there to my grandparents' house. And as I was learning the lake, I would just throw up my phone and talk about, what I had learned or who I had met. It's a very fascinating area full of overachievers, whether it's in sports or business or military or academics. So many interesting people here. So that turned into an online show that we have so proudly, filmed and sponsored and gotten the community involved with. And we're watching our 100th show now on Facebook and YouTube and lovelakemartin.com.
Yeah, I checked out. I went and checked out a little bit of the 100th episode, kind of looking back on everything. Living here all of my life, and I think probably a lot of people living in this area most of our lives would take it for granted, the lake. But 100 episodes, and you guys are going out. It's something different every week. There is so much around here, around Lake Martin, that's interesting, that's fun, that's that you could make a day of. There's just so much available, and it's kind of surprising a little bit, I think.
Well, good. I'm glad you're surprised, and I hope that we've introduced you to people that maybe you didn't know were living right down the road, or, some of my favorite episodes have been when we interviewed the Scoutons, who are, if they're not in their 90s, they're pretty close, and they are world champion, record holder, trick water skiers.
Wow.
And they still hold the record, and they still go out and ski. They got out, and did a little trick ski for us. It was precious. There's just, I just love the CAC golf, team and watching their success year after year. And then, of course, just down the road, Auburn University. Mm-hmm. Just helped a family move here, and they've become great friends from upstate New York that learned about Lake Martin when their daughter was on the equestrian team at Auburn 9 years ago.
Really?
Fell in love with the area and said, we're going to retire here. And they have, and love it.
Well, moving it over to our, venue of sports, you being a real estate agent, are we using Lake Martin as a resource enough as far as tourism is concerned, as far as hosting athletic tournaments or fishing tournaments or any kind of thing like that? Soccer tournaments, got a nice new soccer complex. Yeah. Are we using that, or is it an untapped resource?
Well, that's where my children are right now, at the soccer complex. And so thank you. We didn't have soccer when I grew up in Boaz, and so I love learning about that sport. I'm thrilled. We all were so thrilled about the Elite Pro Bass Fishing Tournament. And since then, we've met and moved some families here. Got to mention Brady Harp, who is on the Auburn fishing team. We are a sponsor of his season, and we just love following him. Is it ever tapped to the fullest? Never. We can always do more.
Yeah. What's on tap for episode 101?
Oh, You'll have to stay tuned. But we are going to talk about the rental market and how that is so huge, especially this time of year during football season. I like to work with the calendar of the year when people are like, can I really rent here? And some of these big games that are coming to Auburn, Georgia, Alabama this year, top dollar rentals if you have an investment property, or if you're in a neighborhood where you can rent your lake home. Oh my goodness, limitless.
Well, I mean, that makes sense. I mean, again, it's a strategic location.
Yeah.
Coming to Auburn, I mean, with the 280 now, the way they say, those of us that are old enough to remember driving through Dable and Camp Hill and Waverly to get to Auburn, and it taking about an hour and a half. The days of that, you can get there in 35 minutes now.
Some people now consider Lake Martin a suburb
Yeah, really.
of Auburn, really.
That's maybe a good way to look at it.
There are plenty of Alabama fans around here too, aren't there?
Oh, well, there are some. Actually, Luke is one, if you can believe it. But so you said your show is an online show, but now it's moved to WAXC TV.
I'm so thrilled.
And you can see Love Lake Martin on when?
Well, you're so gracious to air our episodes 6 times a week. So from Thursday to Sunday, we have compiled lots of our short segments that were on the online show into a 30-minute show, and there's no telling what you're going to see, from a seaplane trip around the lake to local businesses and restaurants and food segments, and there's always a splash of real estate somewhere in the background.
Well, I'd have to say one thing. We only got about a minute, but the trip to the Smith Mountain Fire Tower was now I got to ask this. I mean, was there any prep work done before this?
No.
Because was it like we're going to get there and say, well, let's just do the trail, or was the plan to do the trail the whole time and you just didn't realize how long it was?
The plan was for the cross-country superstar, Tristan Breen, to do the trail. But then everybody with me was going to do it. And I was like, I used every excuse in the world, but they weren't going to let me out of it. So we hiked up there in a nice shirt and skirt and totally inappropriate shoes. And
yeah, I'd lovelake.martin.com. I'd go and check that episode out. It's pretty good.
Thank you.
Paige Patterson, realtor, Love Lake Martin host, and Lake Martin lover. We appreciate you being here with us, and we'll be back with more Sportz Blitz Live right after this.
Thank